Grandpa, all you guys take meds. That's why you gotta dispose of your old pills correctly.
Those pills for your back pain or migraines.
When you throw them in the trash, those medicines can become lethal in the wrong hands. Our hands. You may be finished with that medicine,
but those pills are making me real popular at school.
My brother James could think they're candy. Our dog loves to get in the garbage, and those meds can make him sick or worse. So stop. There are better ways to dispose of your unused meds.
There are lots of police stations, local pharmacies, and hospitals that are approved to take in unused meds and dispose of them safely.
Disposal sites are close by.
It's easy, and it's the right thing to do. For us. The ones you love.
To find a medicine disposal site near you, visit www.safe.pharmacy. A public service message from the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy.
You're home to the NFL. WGSX Lynn Haven. WVLQ Port St. Joe. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Are you ready? Okay, let's begin.
Trip. The Afternoon Underdog Trip. Live and local. Inside the Doghouse.
Unleash the dragon.
On the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
What's up, Northwest Florida? You are now in the Doghouse riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're on 104.3 right here in Panama City, and over there, the forgotten coast of Port St. Joe, 101.9. It's ESPN Northwest Florida. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. Hope you guys are having a wonderful, fantastic Tuesday afternoon, 30 days away from college football, just a few days away from the Hall of Fame game, right? We've got a little action this Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the first preseason game about to kick off.
Yes, sir, the Hall of Fame game
coming this month, man.
Yeah. Well, do we consider preseason football
we've got
football?
College football games.
It's like a step above the Pro Bowl when they were playing tackle football. No, I'm just joking. And honestly, for this year, I think it's one of the most excited I've been for preseason football, just because I want to see Malik Willis in action. I want to see Will Levis in action. I don't need people to tell me. That's the whole beauty of being a fan of these sports is we can, what happens in practice is definitely a pivotal part of what we see on the field, the product that we see on the field. But what we get to see from the games is our own takeaways. If you're watching 60 minutes of football, you're going to be able to formulate an opinion, a perspective that not everyone else out there is formulating. That's the beauty of sports.
Yeah, I think the best part about this preseason is we have so many intriguing rookie quarterbacks that we're all looking forward to seeing. I mean, you got the Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. How is Anthony Richardson looking? How is Levis going to look up in Tennessee? I kind of wish Hooker was a little healthier so we could see him.
Yeah. Oh man,
what I'm saying?
definitely.
Like, last year we didn't really have that. We had Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, and Malik Willis. Like, with all due respect to those guys, they just don't have the same intrigue that this quarterback class has, and I think that makes preseason so much more exciting.
Do you think that's better for the Netflix documentary? That there's so many rookies to kind of choose from, even though they didn't go with the rookie last year, but they could.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like you said, it gives you more options, and I kind of hope we see it next year. I don't know if anybody's been confirmed. I think I heard Joe Burrow was a rumor for next season.
See, Joe Burrow's already declined. Jalen Hurts has declined. There's actually been a bunch of them who have declined, but at the end of the day, how many times have you heard your favorite player say, I'm going to be with this team for the rest of my career, and then the very next year, they're gone?
Well, Nick Saban was going to be the coach of the Crimson Tide, right?
Yeah, exactly. Come on now.
But, so I'm interested to see, and I think a rookie thing with one of those high-profile rookies would be kind of cool just to see that transition from high school to college.
We've seen it. I think you've mentioned it before, maybe off the air, maybe on the air, but we've seen Hard Knocks talk about rookies. They even had that show, Welcome to the NFL or whatever, Welcome to the League, something like that. And that's cool, but I just love the deep dive of looking at the quarterback position from three different perspectives and seeing how all of that plays out. And, I do think, like, for a guy like Jalen Hurts, I think it's different for Patrick Mahomes. Kirk Cousins is like, wow, why, why did you
was the biggest
that?
Winner.
Yeah.
He was
100%.
Winner. Who's not a Kirk Cousins fan now?
Right. I mean, if you've watched that and you're not a Kirk Cousins fan, you've got to be a Lions, a Bears, or a Packers fan, or just have some issue with the Minnesota Vikings, or a Michigan fan. That's a great point as well. But yeah, I mean, he comes out the big winner. But for a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who's got two under his belt, it's like, all right, like your focus doesn't have to be as intense as what Kirk Cousins does or a Dak Prescott or whatever. But I do think that it's really cool for us as fans to be afforded a little sneak peek into their real life, because one of the coolest things for me, all right, so now you perceive Patrick Mahomes in this one particular, like in the light that you see him in, but then when you see him from this, it's like maybe you didn't know he was as cocky as what he was. Maybe you didn't know that these guys sit around after the game and they're talking shop, about how their performance was and everything. I think that's really cool, man.
Yeah, no, and I've known people who aren't even sports fans talking like, oh, because my friends and coworkers like know me as a fairly big sports guy. Like, oh, hey man, did you watch the documentary? Well, obviously, I watched.
Yeah,
it.
Have you watched The Dogs yet? Them Dogs?
Oh yeah, I watched Them Dogs.
Was that good?
Oh, that was great. I mean,
I haven't heard a lot about it for it just coming out. Like, it's been
a
2 weeks
standard
now.
season descriptive documentary. Right. If you're not a Georgia fan, it's probably going to be average for you. But you still get to see behind the scenes. I think one of the best things ESPN did with that is they showed practice moments where they were coaching certain techniques, and then it immediately flashed into a game where it showed that technique being used in real situations. So that was really cool. Like, especially as a fan, being like, man, our coaching staff was like preaching this going into this game, and then it turns like for the Tennessee game specifically, like, oh man, you want to run and turn into the wide receiver and intercept the pass, and it immediately shows Keely Ringo. It was like instant. It's like, oh man, it was great.
Is that the Bama pick?
No. It was for the Tennessee game.
Tennessee game. All right.
Like, there's a great quote from our defensive coordinator. He's like, guys, why is this a big game? Because we in it. And like that was, it was great as like a Georgia fan. Other people,
and he's the Eagle now, right? They got their hands on Keely Ringo.
Yeah, Keely Ringo. Yeah, four dogs plus DeAndre Swift this offseason. So Philadelphia Dogs, baby. Let's go.
The Philly Dogs. No, it's going to be a lot of fun watching that. I mean, just that in and of itself as a storyline, I think is fun, because will that start to be a cycle? Like, how we're talking about the running backs this year, in 4 to 5 years, could we see more teams who are kind of hyper focused on a certain university's players? Like, if they're able at the college level to build things like the way Kirby Smart and the Dogs were able to.
We kind of saw it a few years ago with the Jags the Jags got Lawrence and Etienne. Yeah. Then the Dolphins went out and got Tua and Waddle, and then
the combinations. Yeah. I mean, just a few years ago, the Redskins, then the football team, then the Commanders. They were very heavily invested into Alabama players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially that defensive line. Yeah, like you mentioned there. So I find that to be intriguing. But like, just because it's T-Law and Etienne playing quarterback and running back, which are, a primary focus on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think people are looking at the Jaguars as Clemson. You know what I mean? I've never really heard this before. Even when Alabama was dominating Washington's roster, it wasn't like, for me it was, as a guy who plays a lot of Madden, and I'm even making more trades to bring in more Alabama guys and just like redo the uniforms. Like, hey, y'all looking for a new name? All right, we'll go with the Washington Tide. How does that work for you? But
throw the numbers on the side of the helmet too.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, don't they already, I think they have a helmet. No, the black helmet's got, it's got the numbers on the side. The black helmet does got the numbers on the side, and it's got the W like right here in the middle of the helmet. Yeah, I mean, the score released just a few days ago, the top 10 or the top 11 uniforms that are being re-implemented or whatever, you know what I mean, like a retro, or Detroit Lions got a helmet that's an alternate helmet. The Cardinals, I didn't even realize. I did after I saw it, but I was not actively on top of the Cardinals coming in with all new uniforms, where it's very, very basic. I would have loved to say that the Houston Oilers were going to be the best retro uniform coming back this year, which they're going to be using twice. They're going to be playing the Falcons, and they're going to be playing the Texans in those Houston Oilers jerseys. But the Seattle Seahawks are bringing back the silver dome pieces.
Oh, those are going to be great.
And it's got like the royal blue type deal, you know what I mean? And rightly so. Also, the score had, I say rightly so, just because I feel like this program, this franchise could have done so much better with the color combination. But the Indianapolis Colts with the Indiana Knights or whatever, I mean, I just wish that there wasn't just so much blue and then the black helmet. I feel like they could have done a little bit better with that. I mean, we're talking about one of the 32 teams in the NFL. Like, come on. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, y'all got a lot of you got a lot to work with in that budget to have some nice uniforms.
Well, how did you feel about the debate of like, why do the Tennessee Titans get to be the Houston Oilers and not the Houston Texans? Have you seen like people saying like,
absolutely. It happens all the time. There was a dude who, and I've had him on the show before. So he writes for The Athletic, and it's called The Athletic Pulse, which is a phenomenal newsletter that you can get sent to your inbox every morning, your email inbox, and you don't have to be subscribed to The Athletic or whatever. But he wrote a piece like saying, it's Houston's team, and there's a lot of, fans who they're fans of the Houston Texans, and they, they're still tied to the Houston Oilers. They should be able to, get to wear those. I'm like, okay, slightly a good point, but irrelevant because the franchise and they did play in Tennessee as the Tennessee Oilers, so those uniforms have nothing tied with them to the Texans. I
thought it was a very funny thing. Like, it was just kind of weird. I kind of saw the point, but kind of to your point, it was like that's doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, they didn't rebrand to the Texans. They completely left, and then that's a whole new team, whole new franchise. Has nothing to do with the Oilers at all. But I saw that, and I thought it was like, man, people pick weird stuff to kind of harp on them.
Oh yeah, I mean it's that's fandom though, and sometimes I find myself like getting aggravated. Not aggravated, but like, what are you guys looking at, or what? And not even just uniforms. Like right now, we're in the trade deadline. We're gonna have Sam Peebles on the line with us here at 420, discussing what the Braves have not done, and then what are some of the other teams in the league doing. But with that, the Atlanta Braves, like especially on Twitter, any social media that you find, like all the fans are like, oh my gosh, we haven't made a move yet. And it's just like, all right, I get it, but like, you're not the general manager. I know that you think we need this and we should go that direction, and there's some truth to it, but there's a bigger picture. And so I used to kind of get aggravated with, the lack of knowledge or the lack of paying attention, I think it would rather be. And then I'm like, no, that's fans. Like, I don't sit up here for 2 hours straight and get everything right that I'm saying or know everything that I'm talking about. Like, no. And without the crazy rabid sports fans, I don't think that the conversations that we have are as fun, because you get those face palming moments where it's just like, I can't. But like today, and I knew that he was trolling, but he had his buddy on the line on the inside drive. Ryan had Remy Graham on, who is a former Troy basketball player. He's got his name in the transfer portal, all that good stuff right now. But one of his buddies called in, and he wanted to try to allude to that in the first 40 career games, Tyrod Taylor was a better on-field and fantasy quarterback, if I'm understanding this correctly, than Jalen Hurts. And then, and that, I mean, it's something that he's seen, and I'm sure you've seen it as well.
I've seen it.
And it's like, okay, but how many NFC championships has Tyrod Taylor played? Like, period. Not even just in his fourth. And don't get me wrong, Tyrod Taylor was one of those guys that, had he not been injured, let's just say the year of Justin Herbert, if he doesn't take a needle to the lung, you know what I mean, from the team doctor, then Tyrod Taylor could have had one of those Geno Smith type years. But there's no comparison to what Jalen Hurts has been able to do. Now, here's the other side. Put Tyrod Tayller, put Justin Fields, put anyone in that Eagles quarterback position with the threats that they have. You know what I mean? But see, here's the thing. Year one, Jalen Hurts was like, all right, like, he looks like he's a little bit better than what he was at Alabama and Oklahoma, passing the ball and everything. Then he gets the pieces and you see the progress. That's when you know, all right, yes, I mean, the wide receivers are a huge factor here, but at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, and he's on his way to great if he continues to play the way that he is. And I feel like with the running back room that the Eagles have this year, they're even more so dangerous than what they were last year.
Yeah, no, kind of going back to that whole point, it's like fans and stats are so silly sometimes, because like stats are great. Everybody wants to throw for 500 yards and 8 touchdowns a game, right? And be the hero. But like, each game plan and each game and each team is built so differently that sometimes that's not in the game plan. That's not his job that day. Maybe his job is just to not turn the ball over, So saying, like, just because a guy throws for more yards or has more touchdowns, like, that doesn't necessarily make them a better player.
Right.
It just means that's what their team needed in that moment, or the other team necessarily didn't need it. And it's just fans and stats, man. They got a funny relationship. It's great.
Well, and statistics in general, you can skewer, you can pull the ones that you want, leave out the ones that you don't want, all that good stuff to support your argument. And that, that it's a lot of fun, especially in this day and age. I feel like the more that I look at on especially Facebook, but Twitter, anything, is like the more that I'm just like, all right, I don't even need to be reading this stuff. Even regular articles, I can't even tell you how many times these days reading articles from big time publications, I'm like, did you even put any research into this, like, before you put this out to the masses? You know what I mean? Like, and then there's been so many times where I want to text a certain publication or, figure out a way to email and be like, y'all, this is a pretty big typo right here. You know what I mean? But at the end
journalism
of the day,
today sometimes is very lacking.
Well, I think it's harder too, though, because you're one of a whole bunch of journalists trying to get your finger on the story, and then at the end of the day, there is nothing being why not put out clickbait? Because you're not getting paid on how good the story is. You're not getting paid on the quality of the stuff you put out. You're getting paid on clicks. The wilder stuff that you put out there, the crazier stuff. If we were to talk crazier on air, we would even be getting more calls and stuff like that.
But the facts on the Afternoon Underdogs.
I'm not going to say necessarily that, but yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where, going off the rails on certain things to me has just never been it's not even a lot of fun. Now, if someone comes with something creative that's a hypothetical and stuff like that, I like that. I like creative hypotheticals, but with something just to get clicks or just to, like these debate shows in the morning. These debate shows, not here on ESPN Northwest Florida, but on the television, those are ones that I can't even tell you how long it's been since I've watched them, because you already know that they don't even really believe the argument that they're talking about. We've even done that a few times on this show where it's like, all right, well, I'll take this side, but I don't believe, and I don't like doing that, because I'd rather feel convicted on what it is that I'm talking about, or feel, like this is how I feel about it, and I'm going to stick with that, rather than let me say this to get a reaction.
Yeah.
We're going out already? We got about 5 more minutes here. We're going to keep it rolling, though. Sam Peebles is just 5 minutes away from us, and that is exactly what that sounder was right there.
Just 5 minute warning,
you guys
right?
The 5 minute warning
for Sam.
Exactly. Can't wait to talk to Sambo about the Braves. And you can give us a call or text today, 850-215-6290. Fantasy football registration for ESPN Northwest Florida is opened up. I have talked to Coach Hale. He has confirmed that he will be manning his team this year. He doesn't know if he's going to be able to make it to the draft, but he's put me in charge of drafting his team for him. So we've got 9 spots left for the live draft, which is going to be August 26th, 11 a.m. at Dave & Buster's.
I just made the draft thing. It's mandatory for all employees.
Mandatory for all employees. There you go. So yeah, we're going to be doing the live draft out there. And if you'd like to play fantasy football with us, 850-215-6290. Text right now. Text your name, your email, and that you will be available. We've got 9 spots left. And trust me when I say that if you're not getting in now, as we get closer, these texts will pile in a lot faster. I mean, on the very first day, we filled up a league, and then I kind of didn't push it as hard, because my biggest thing is that I want listeners participating and not just everyone, hey man, go get in this league, and then they're not even listening for what we do for them throughout the week, which isn't huge or anything, but hey, if you're the top scorer of the week in your league, then you're going to get a shout out right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. What other radio station are you going to listen to and hear your fantasy football team name come out? Not too many of them. Not too many of them. And we won't be hearing anything from Tyler this year, because he got the rear of the horse last year in the league.
Better.
That is
if
true.
I got second last, I would have gotten absolutely nothing out of it.
That is true. Again, we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, and you can also download the app and register. Just go to your Apple App Store or your Google Play Store, type in 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. We were talking about the Broncos yesterday, and it started out because Aaron Rodgers responded to Sean Payton's comments. I have not read the story yet, but also now Nathaniel Hackett has came out and responded to those comments and basically just said Sean Payton broke the code. But I was also bringing up Tim Patrick yesterday, who's going to miss the season now with an ACL, or they believe to be an ACL injury.
I think I saw earlier that it was actually an Achilles.
Oh, no, you're right. It was Achilles. Okay. But and I'm really only bringing that up because the part that I didn't get into yesterday is KJ Hamler, though, on Instagram announced that he's been diagnosed with a mild heart irritation called pericarditis. He said he would miss some time, but intended to be back on the field this season after treatment with medication. The Broncos do plan to waive Hamler with a non-football illness designation to let him undergo treatment and potentially bring him back later if he is cleared, sources told ESPN, which is wild. Like, this guy's going through something with his heart. We just had the whole DeMar Hamlin situation, and it's like, I don't know. Obviously, the business side of everything, who knows what the Broncos are doing for him behind the scenes, but it's almost like, oh, you're not able to play football, like you're not worth anything to us. And like, man,
yeah, you
that's
kinda,
the nature of the business.
You kind of hope that they are helping him out. They're just doing this to kind of clear the roster spot.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You know, and it's the business side of it, man. It is ugly to see sometimes, but anything to do with the heart, you know, you got to take that super scary stuff there. So hopefully, you know, he gets it all taken care of. He's able to come back, but obviously football's a far second to just getting healthy and getting right.
100%. You can ask DeMar Hamlin, and there's going to be a lot of eyes on DeMar too, especially when you get to Monday Night Football, September 11th. It's going to be the Bills and the Jets. I mean, we're not that far away from it. It's the first of the month, but by the time we hit the next first of the month, it's going to be full. We're going to be in full swing, and I'm not talking about the golf documentary that you can find on Netflix. All right, you've been riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Want to know what those Braves are up to? Well, just keep it locked in here because we've got Sam Peebles with the scoop up next.
In my shoes, my toes are busted, my kitchen.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The Afternoon Underdogs.
That's going to be the toughest award to get, is the AFC MVP, just with Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, of course, Patrick Mahomes. The list goes on and on. But if they have the type of a jump, or if Trevor Lawrence has a big enough jump to get into that MVP conversation, let alone win the MVP, the Jaguars are definitely going to win.
4 to 6 weekdays. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your forecast on this Tuesday. Some sun the remainder of the day with a gentle breeze coming out of the west-southwest at 11 miles per hour, and look for it to be 92. Tonight there will be mostly clear skies with the temperature reaching 82. A mixture of some sun and a chance of thunderstorms tomorrow with a high of 90. This weather is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Take your next adventure in an eco-friendly all-electric Kia EV6 that gives you the movement that inspires. You can live fully charged while saving now and down the road on fuel costs. Schedule a test drive today and explore the electrified Kia vehicles at Billboard Kia. You have to drive it to believe it. Now offering $7,500 EV lease bonus when you lease a new 2023 Kia EV6 Wind Electric all-wheel drive for 36 months. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology with a performance that minimizes the impact of our environment. Billboard Kia is the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. See us today at 2435 East 15th Street or BillboardKiaPanamaCity.com. We make it easy to switch to EV ownership and give you the peace of mind you can trust.
Close-in lease based on a new 2023 Kia EV6, model number N5452. No security deposit required. $7,500 EV lease bonus not available for cash. Subject to credit approval, dealer participation, and vehicle availability. $49.99 due at signing for a well-qualified lease, and see dealer for complete details. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Billboard Kia warranty. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 9/5/23.
Hot takes, the latest trades, in-depth interviews.
That is my reaction.
We break it down for you right here.
Very big springboard for the rest of my career.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
That's the problem right there.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Back here on ESPN Northwest Florida, you're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. We're bringing on to the line with us the host and creator of the Braves Dugout podcast on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon, just about 34 minutes or so, or 38 minutes away from the trade deadline in Major League Baseball. Sam Peebles, what's going on? Hey, Sam, you there? All right, we're going to get Sam right back. All right, Sam, what's going on, my friend? You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, perfect, man. How's everything going out there in your side of the world?
Great. It's this is a holiday for me, so
yeah, right on.
I'm enjoying it.
Well, all right. So let's start with who's winning the trade deadline to this point.
The Astros, and not just because of they got Justin Verlander, but I cannot believe how much they got the Mets to pay down his contract.
How much was it?
I mean, so if Justin Verlander pitches 140 innings next year, he'll have a vesting option the following year, which means that he'll be under contract not only next year, but the year after that. And of the possible $93 million that could still be on his contract, the Mets are going to pay down $52.5 million of that.
I just saw that, and I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Yes. So essentially, the Mets are paying $52.5 million to get some, one-third of the contract off the books, plus a number 68 prospect in Major League Baseball. I mean, the Astros, I would have jumped all over that if I was the Astros, so good on them.
No, 100%. And the Braves were in the hunt. Let me ask you, Sam, if the Braves wanted to make a trade here for Verlander, obviously it's over and done with, but did the Braves have enough to actually make a good enough deal to bring JV to Atlanta?
Based on this deal, yes, because their top prospect, Smith Shawver, is ranked about in the 60s as well. And if they were willing to pay down as much as this, I think the Braves would have been willing to pay something close to this. So I do think that, yes, based on the trade that we saw here, the Mets possibly could, except that it's a division rival. So that would have probably made them have to pay a little bit more. So it's hard to say, but I would say, theoretically speaking, the Braves could have done it. I don't know if they should have done it, but it still would have been really fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. We were talking a little bit on the Inside Drive earlier today, and one of the things from my perspective is you're not bringing in JV to get you to the playoffs. I'm not saying that the playoffs are cemented, but you're not bringing him in. You're not even making moves as the Atlanta Braves necessarily for getting to the playoffs. It's more or less when you get to the playoffs. I would believe they're looking at it that way. And Justin Verlander and we're talking about just 1 year, but he did not have a great run in the playoffs last year. Am I mistaken on that?
No, I will say he's not the Justin Verlander of old, but he still, since June, has been a top 10 pitcher in terms of earned run average and wins above replacement. So he's still an elite pitcher. I can say this, that not a single one of the Braves starters can say that they're top 10 in both of those categories since June. So, I mean, he would have definitely bolstered the team, but it would have really hampered them financially because the Braves already have the largest payroll they've ever had, and they'd have to, with Justin Verlander on the books, sort of had to start paying some serious luxury tax fees over the next few years, and that not only affects your finances, but also your future draft picks as well. And we know that the Braves sometimes live and die off of developing players, so I don't know if that would have been the best deal for them to make.
Now, the Braves did open up the deadline day here with a trade, and we'll get into who they brought in and all of that good stuff and get Sam's thoughts on that. But do you think that they should still be looking for a strong starting pitcher here in the next 30 minutes or so, or maybe they have something lined up? And my reason for asking that is because with Max Fried and Kyle Wright, both of those guys are going to need a little bit of time to kind of shake that rust off. And we still got about 2 months of baseball left to be played here. But it is one of those things that I'm curious about, or maybe concerned about, is the lack of pitching that we've seen from Fried and Wright this year.
Right. So the Braves already have a 99.4% chance of winning their division. So a fifth starter doesn't necessarily need to be a priority because they're virtually guaranteed to win their division. And when you play in the playoffs, you don't have a fifth starter. You don't run a 5-man rotation in the postseason. So really, the only reason it would make sense to get a fifth starter is if you basically got him for free and you just want an innings eater. Mm-hmm. And I don't really see any reason for the Braves to do that because there will be plenty of guys like that you can pick up off of waivers. I think if they were to make a trade, they'd have to swing something magical for like a Dylan Cease or something like that. But I don't see that happening. The Braves would have to overpay for him because the White Sox are in no position to have to trade Dylan Cease. And they want to have a core of players to build around after they've traded away all these guys. So I don't really see a type of pitcher that the Braves can really get. There's not really one available right now for that to happen. So if anything, if they do add something, it'll probably be another relief pitcher.
I like it. And how do you feel about the move today, them landing Brad Hand?
So a lot of people, if you look at his surface numbers, they're not that great. So I understand the frustration. But you got to realize the Braves essentially got him for free. He cost less than $500,000 for the rest of the year, which to me is a lot of money, but not in baseball contracts. Mm-hmm. They gave up a prospect that's never going to make it to the major leagues. And they got a guy that, against left-handed hitting, that left-handed hitters have a 143 batting average, a 276 on-base percentage, and a 204 slugging percentage against Brad Hand this year. So if you use him as a left-handed specialist against left-handed hitters, he's going to be effective. He's been elite in that capacity. So if they're using him just as a role player, which they should be doing, it was a solid pickup. You just got a left-handed specialist for essentially free. I think it was a great move.
So is it similar to, or is AA thinking similarly to the way with the Pierce Johnson trade?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, Pierce Johnson, he had a high ceiling. He had some bad luck early in the year, but his peripherals were showing that he was a lot better than what was showing. And Alex Anthopoulos took a gamble on him, and so far in three appearances, he's been really good. And at the end of the day, if the injured bullpen pieces come back, and you have to either release these guys, or I believe Johnson has an option left. So what? No skin off your back. You didn't give anything to get him. So, I mean, it's depth moves that makes the team just a little bit better with basically giving up nothing.
You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're on the line with the host of the Braves Dugout podcast, Sam Peebles. Sam, has this been, I'm kind of keeping up with the trades, but has it been a lackluster trade deadline to this point? And is there any other names out there that could move that would make your eyes pop?
Yeah, I would say from a stand, like what we're used to seeing, we came off of trade seasons that had guys like Juan Soto and people like that being traded. So it makes sense to feel like it's lackluster. But with the new playoff structure, there's more playoff teams, so that means there's more teams in the hunt. Then you have teams like the Cubs that went on a massive streak right before the trade deadline that are no longer, that are pushing for playoffs. You got teams like the Angels that we thought would be sellers that were buyers. I mean, there's way more buyers this season than there are sellers. So economics 101 says there's not going to be a ton of awesome trades, And so supply versus demand just isn't there this year. And so it makes sense that it's a bit lackluster. We still got 30 minutes left, but yeah, I would say it's lackluster, but it's not unexpected.
What do you think about Nicky Lopez and Alex Anthopoulos? Making a great trade, just picking up Taylor Hearn for, I believe, cash considerations from the Rangers, and then flipping him for a utility infielder. If it's up to you, and we're getting close to the playoffs, who do you think is playing more, Charlie Culberson or Nicky Lopez?
Well, Culberson got designated for assignment, so he won't be playing at all.
Right.
But, you mean like if he gets picked by someone else? Yeah. Or if it would have been Culberson on the roster?
Yeah, because I looked. So this is the same DFA that he got on Father's Day, right?
No. He got DFA'd yesterday.
Oh, daggum. I didn't even see that. That one snuck past me.
Yeah.
Well, never mind. That question, strike that from the record. Strike it from the record right now. No.
Either way, if it was one or the other, Nicky Lopez would have definitely got more playing time. He's elite defensively. He's Gold Glove caliber that can play multiple positions. He would definitely get more playing time. In fact, I hope that since the Braves are 11 games up, that they'll start playing Nicky Lopez some to cover defensively and give some guys some rest. I know that rest is a touchy subject, but we don't want to risk injuries for guys that are going to be helping in the postseason when the postseason is pretty much locked up at this point. That's
a great point because it is a touchy subject. So let me ask you, what's the right amount to be resting these guys heading into the playoffs?
I would say you don't want to do the whole thing where you just rest your starters for the last 3 games of the year that we've seen in the past. Definitely don't want to do that. What I would suggest doing is, just give them one day off here and there for the rest of the year, maybe one day off a week or something like that. And that way keep their legs fresh and, keep them where they're still mentally in the game, yet still getting a break here and there. As a person that loves stats, I hate seeing it because I like seeing people like Matt Olson get counting stats stacked up, but if we're trying to win a World Series here, got to have guys playing their best when they make it to the postseason.
What do you make of the Mets, who had a huge offseason, were being pegged by a lot of the media to win the National League East? If it wasn't going to be them, it was going to be the big spending Phillies at that point, just from some of the media out there. But what do you make of them just kind of breaking it all up here at the deadline with Verlander and Scherzer? From my perspective, just from last year, I was saying, why would you? I get the names, like obviously the name recognition, and still how well they're pitching with Verlander and Scherzer. But if it doesn't bring you to a World Series, I think it's all a loss.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect case study of why it's not about the amount of money you spend, but how you spend the money. This is a good life lesson for people in general when they budget.
Right.
But, you don't spend money just to spend it. It's about the output that you get per dollar spent, which we've seen, the Moneyball movement and things like that. I mean, that's how you win in baseball. It's not the amount. So that's why you don't just make trades to make trades. You don't spend money just to spend money. You make incremental upgrades over time that make your team better, and lock up for cheap if you can. And the Mets took the old school Yankees approach that worked 30 years ago before analytics existed, true analytics existed, and you could win back then that way. But in today's world, it just doesn't work. And to me, it's good for baseball. It shows that it shows fans that keep saying to like Alex Anthopoulos or the Braves front office, spend more money, spend more money, spend more money. Well, you can see right here that spending money doesn't necessarily win. It's how you spend the money. So,
and you gotta
be collected.
And you gotta love the way that the Braves do it, because it's not like they're just out here waving money around. I mean, the one bad contract, if we want to get into it, could possibly be Marcell Ozuna. But I mean, a 3 home run day the other day, the bat has just turned absolutely around. So what there is to love from the Braves is, they go out and they get these guys via trade, but then they sign them to those long-term extensions, which is also team friendly.
Right. The worst contract, if you will, on the Braves is for a league average hitter that ended up signing for well below what the market was predicting he was going to cost. So,
which player is that? Oh, that is Ozuna. Okay, all right, cool. All right, so you've always talked about, if the Rays are interested in your pitcher, do not trade him. Aaron Savale going to the Rays. Should we be expecting a strong second half from him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was a fantastic trade. I loved it for both teams. I thought it was the perfect example of the type of trade that you want to see. You got a guy with years of control that has a very high ceiling, and you gave up a prospect that could be a star. And that's your prototypical trade deadline trade that we love seeing. And I think that was a super smart move on both ends.
And then the Angels, who are the Braves' opponent tonight, they beat the Braves last night 4-1, and you can hear that game right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Coverage starting at 6. First pitch tonight at 6:20, but getting Grichuk and C.J. Cron from the Rockies, which the Braves have dipped into that Rockies well. The Angels have dipped into the well of the Rockies now as well. What do you think of the deadline, the trades, the moves that the Angels have made once they decided that they're going to hang on to Shohei Ohtani?
If I was a GM, I would not have done it.
Okay.
However, you're under a lot of pressure from the fan base. Fans are showing up literally for Ohtani. How could you ever live down trading the best player we've seen in our lifetimes? That would probably haunt him for the rest of his life. So I have to give it to him for making these moves. If you're going to push for the playoffs, push for the playoffs. And that's what they're doing. They're putting their chips in to go all in on the final year, possibly the final year of Ohtani's contract. And they were hurting. I mean, they have a lot of guys on the injured list. So bringing in, these bats, they're showing Ohtani and the fan base that they're here to make it the playoffs. And they're only 3 games behind a wild card. And, we see that hot teams, if they get hot at the right time, even teams that aren't that good on paper, they can make it far in the postseason. So it'll be fun to watch.
You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're chatting with Sam Peebles right now. He is the host of the Braves Dugout podcast. You can find that wherever it is that you go and search for your podcast. Sam, let me ask you this. How often, or what is the percentage point, do you think, that general managers and front offices actually listen to the fan base?
The good ones probably don't listen at all.
Right, but do you think there is some element where there is at least a finger on the pulse of what it is that the fan base, at least just to keep them buying tickets?
Yeah, as far as that, I'm sure that they do. I think that's probably more so on the owner than the GM, though.
Gotcha.
But yeah, for the Shohei Ohtani, that was probably a pulse on the fan base more than a business decision there, I would imagine, because like I said, can you imagine if the Angels traded them? I mean, they're just that's going to be talked about forever.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and then it could have gone, it would have been totally different than last year with Juan Soto because it wasn't just, it was a rental, but it was a little bit longer than just a 2-month rental at that point, which is what Shohei would have done. But let me ask you this, Sam. We talked about the winner of the trade deadline. Which team, in your opinion, dropped the ball?
The Mets.
Okay.
There is no way if I'm the Mets, I am eating that much money. I'm not going to hamper my payroll for that many years for players that aren't even going to be on my roster. I would have rather just kept Scherzer and Verlander and hope that they turn things around. I'm not going to eat that much money, I mean, because they're already over the luxury tax, and then you're going to be paying luxury tax fees on contracts for players that aren't even on your team anymore.
And then what if the Astros and the Rangers are playing in the ALCS and it's just and anchoring the rotations are Scherzer and Verlander?
I hope that happens. Not in spite of the Mets, but just the storyline behind how they were teammates and now they're facing off against each other would just be really fun.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then which with the Rangers though is when we look at that rotation, we look at all the arms that they've added, is it as lethal as what our perspective is?
Early in the year, I would have said absolutely, and then adding all these guys. But, with the injuries, Eovaldi, I think, is probably going to be the X factor. If he can come back and be healthy, then, I would say so. If he can't come back and be 100%, then I think it might be, not as lethal as we might think.
Absolutely. Sam, we are out of time. Thank you so much for giving us some of yours, and let's see what these Braves do in the next 21 minutes.
Yeah, hopefully they do something.
All right, we'll see. We'll talk to you later, Sam.
All right, thanks.
Absolutely. Sam covers the Atlanta Braves for the Braves Dugout podcast, and you can hear him weekly right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Your Atlanta Braves. First pitch tonight, 6:20, right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. It's going to be Strider versus Sandoval. It's the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We'll play a little traffic jam and trivia when we return.
ESPN Northwest Florida has the real local fishing report. Hi, this is Tim from Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle. Join me every Friday at 4:20 during the Afternoon Underdogs. It's accurate, detailed content from local anglers, plus fishing updates on Saturday and Sunday morning right when you hit the water. Advice and stories from local anglers. Tune into the Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle Fishing Report, exclusively on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your forecast on this Tuesday. Some sun the remainder of the day with a gentle breeze coming out of the west-southwest at 11 miles per hour, and look for it to be 92. Tonight, there will be mostly clear skies with the temperature reaching 82. A mixture of some sun and a chance of thunderstorms tomorrow with a high of 90. This weather is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Are you tired of hearing 2 weeks when you call to get your boat worked on? Hey folks, it's Chris Kramer with Kramer Marine and Outdoor, and we'll get you in and back out on the water as quick as possible. We're a full-line Yamaha outboard dealer and Suzuki outboard dealer, and we have master-trained certified mechanics on site. So if it's just an annual service, electronics install, trolling motor install, or all the way up to a full repower, we can take care of you. So stop by and see us in the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd next to Bill Kramer GM, or call us at 850-851-0453.
Hi, I'm Tracy, your diamond girl at Tracy's Fine Jewelry. Shopping for the perfect diamond can be difficult, but that's why I've trained my staff to be helpful and to offer you a stress-free diamond experience. Pick your sparkle and use our easy layaway plan. Every woman deserves an exquisite diamond from your diamond girl at Tracy's Fine Jewelry. We don't work on commissions.
We work for smiles and I-dos.
So if you're tired of high-pressure salespeople, stop by and see us today at Tracy's Fine Jewelry.
Doing what other stations can't. The Afternoon Underdogs is live and local. 850-215-6290.
When you've completed dialing, listen for the ringing signal.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Hey, we're back. It's the Afternoon Underdogs, and this is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to cut the show off right here because I don't want to work at all. Just let me bang on these drums all day. No, we've got the boss man back there. He just cracked the whip, said, get back to work. So I'm going to keep these, I'm going to keep on just talking. We have nothing here. No. Let's play a little traffic jam and trivia, though. 850-215-6290 for your chance to win $25 to Rudy's Barbecue and go test out the barbecue over that way. I asked the question yesterday. We never got an answer. In 2022, what running back led the NFL in yards per attempt? In 2022, what running back led the NFL in yards per carry? Same thing. Yards per attempt, yards per carry. Same exact thing there. And it's always good when on the Facebook feed I'm seeing a Yankee fan complain and say, well, he's not complaining. He's not complaining. He's just saying that he wishes that the Yankees would have done more at the deadline. They haven't really done anything. I don't know if they have done anything. And he says that for him, it's the Yankees who have dropped the ball, which, hey, I get that, man. We're just about, 15 minutes away from finishing our Pac-12 preview and beginning our Big 12 preview, which is not necessarily as much as a preview as far as a record prediction type thing, just kind of going through these and seeing what sticks along the way. So 850-215-6290. What running back led the NFL in yards per carry? 850-215-6290. If you're a fantasy footballer out there and you would like to join ESPN Northwest Florida for our live draft August 26th at 11 a.m., text your name and your email to 850-215-6290. All right, so we talked a lot of NFL in the opening segment today. Anything going on in the collegiate world that's standing out to you right now? I mean, the main thing I think is the documentaries. And we really haven't had big storylines. I think the biggest thing, now that I'm thinking of it, Pac-12 today had their meetings and left without having a vote on the future for the TV deals.
Yeah, no, that's going to be I know Apple streaming is a big thing for the Pac-12 moving forward. Obviously, Colorado leaving to go back to the Big 12 after 13 years of being away. You're looking at the teams available for the 2024 season. In Pac-12, it's 9 teams, I believe. And, there's still some quality teams. Oregon State, Washington. Wazoo's had some pretty good years. Arizona State under new leadership with Dillingham. There's some excitement there, but they're going to have to add something, I think, to stay. But I think at the end of the day, the Pac-12 is eventually going to be cannibalized, and we're going to end up with some super conferences when all that stuff kind of comes about. But with the 12-team playoff going forward, they should stay relatively relevant until they get picked off a little bit more.
What do you think of Auburn right now and their recruiting? They've made they flipped some guys from Georgia, or a guy from Georgia. They flipped some from Alabama now to this point. What are we looking for this year from Auburn? And of course, neither one of us want to see Auburn beat Georgia or Alabama, but just for the sake of Auburn, what kind of a season do they need to have to where Hugh Freeze can continue on this recruiting trail? Because I believe, and this is, I think they got the man for the job. I think that they've got a good one. I think even this year's Iron Bowl could be it could get back to feeling Iron Bowl-ish, where it really hasn't in the last 2 years or so, which is a good thing for my heart. But as far as watching football, not the greatest in the world. But I think if you come out and you lay an egg this year and you go like a 6-6, which without having their schedule in front of me, I don't even know if that's a possibility, But if you come out and you go 6-6, I think that you cool down a lot because you can't sell these guys on. You still will be able to sell them on, we're going to turn this program around. I think it's going to be harder, though, if, Alabama and Georgia and now Tennessee, let's see them, move up in the ranks. And that next year, you've got Oklahoma and Texas coming. The recruiting trail is only getting harder in the landscape of the SEC. So what do you need to see from the Tigers, from Auburn this year to keep them hot?
To kind of hit that whole thing, I think you were right that I think Hugh Freeze in Auburn is a match made in heaven in a lot of ways. I think, based on his time at Ole Miss, he was obviously able to give Bama fits with lesser talent. Obviously as an Auburn team, that's more than likely what's going to happen as long as Saban's there. You're not going to have quite as much talent as Alabama. It just is what it is. Nobody has really over the last 15 years. Obviously, the recruiting's going really well, like you were saying. And I think what matters more than the actual on-field results is how they look in those games. I mean, even look at Florida and Napier last year. They went 6-7, but they beat Utah.
Yeah.
They fought Tennessee till the end. They came back against Georgia when they were down like 28 points. I know they lost to Vanderbilt, but I mean, they ended the season strong against Florida State in a loss, but they were competitive in a lot of those games. And now look at the recruiting now. They're a top 5 class nationally at the moment.
Yeah. But that's the kicker, though, is like looking at these numbers now, when every year, like you'll see Alabama 15, 20 or whatever, and then all of a sudden, it's signing day and
yeah, I mean, they're going to change some, but I mean, they're still end up with a pretty good class. And I think I saw a thing today that like 250 of the top 300 kids were already committed. I think with the early signing day and visits being allowed to be taken earlier, I think you're seeing a lot more kids commit before their senior season. So
which is, I think, good for the high school.
Which is great for the kids. I think it's great for the coaches. I think it's great for all involved, truthfully. But I think, like I said, at Auburn, they need to show fight. They can't just roll over. They got to show what they're doing. Like you said, if they can come out against Alabama and even be competitive as it was in 2021 when they almost won that game. That matters so much more than on the field record. A lot of times is you want to see progress. If you can show progress on the field, even if it doesn't result in the scoreboard, I think as football players, the high school recruits can kind of see that. And then NIL helps a little bit too if you can throw.
Yeah, no doubt.
Stuff. But everybody's doing it, so it's not.
Well, and I just think that the SEC in general is better. Like down years consecutively, down years for 3 or 4 years, just like with Florida State and the journey that they've had to become Florida State again, which I feel like we can safely say after last year that Florida State is back to Florida State ways. You know what I mean? Like it's same with Alabama. Like just because they're going 10-2 doesn't mean they're not a great university. Like with Michigan, like they all go through their years, but I like that point on just because you have a 6-6 year, you point to those Florida Gators and the up and down roller coaster season that they had last year, but yet here they are right now with a top 5 class. So not everything is riding on the regular season for Auburn. So I'm a little bit out of line there. I just think that with these battles though, Alabama and Auburn, like that game means more. The recruiting for Auburn, that game means a lot to them.
And I will say, I think the transfer portal kind of hurts coaches in a way, in the sense that I think Freeze brought in 30 or 40 guys in the portal this year. Not quite as much as Dion, but like now, so it used to be 2 or 3 years to get your guys in. Well, now you can get your guys in a year and a half. So you kind of almost have to show that progress a little quicker than even a guy, Kirby 7 years ago when he took over Georgia. There's no portal.
Right.
There was a little bit more patience because you do have to have that roster turnover naturally. Now, I'm not going to say you can force it, but you can expedite that process a whole lot.
Yeah.
I think that kind of expedites the coach's timeline as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes forward as how we kind of grade coaches earlier in their careers.
Well, and I guess you do, as far as it being expedited, but on the flip side of that, I guess you do get a little bit of a longer leash in year one, though, because yes, you can flip it over, but you have no idea, not a true idea of what product it is. So after that first year, then it's like, all right, these are the guys that bought into the culture. These are the guys who were just kind of, on their way out in a sense. And then what your philosophy is, what the culture is that you're trying to build. And then you can use that transfer portal to kind of, as you said, expedite the process.
Yeah. So like I said, I think Auburn and Hugh Freeze is a great fit. I thought it all last year, as Miles was talking about. It was talked about all over the place, and I'm really interested to see what he does. I'm kind of glad Georgia gets him when they do. It's going to be fairly early in the season. I think it's week 5.
Dude, I was looking at that Auburn schedule today because we're an affiliate of them here on ESPN Northwest Florida, so I was having to put that into our schedule. And I'm like, there's a little stretch there where it's like LSU, Georgia, Texas A&M.
It's at A&M, Georgia, at LSU.
So I said
Ole
all
Miss,
out of order.
Mississippi State. I mean, that's going to be fun.
It's a gauntlet.
That's going to be a fun little stretch. And then obviously you end the season with Alabama.
I mean, you look at Ole Miss last year, started out great, 6-0. Then the brunt of their schedule, the brutal part of their schedule happened, and they did as best as they could, but sometimes
I really kind of wish Auburn was playing at Ole Miss this year, just for Hugh Freeze to be going back to the Grove. I think that'd be great. But we'll look forward to that next year.
Hopefully we get that next year though, man, because 2024 is going to be wild. I mean, just the whole, you talk about all of the storylines that we're talking about now on the precipice of the 2023 season, and in some cases 2024 is more talked about than 2023. It's almost like these quarterback draft classes where, oh, this one's like 2022's, right? Like, oh, this one stinks. Well, let's talk about 2023. Then we get to 2023's quarterback draft class and like, oh, we got to wait on Caleb Williams now. Like,
or Drake May.
Come on, man. Like, let's enjoy these guys.
Hey, man, it's like they say the backup quarterback's always the most popular player on the team. Kind of the same idea. You're always looking forward to what could be, like, you know, sometimes the devil you know is not always better than the devil you don't.
I heard someone compare him to Patrick Mahomes.
Caleb Williams?
Yeah. I mean, I could see where it comes to maybe play style. Like they both can throw the ball orthodox, but also at the same time when they're scrambling, get a little loose with the arm and make some incredible throws. I think my biggest thing, though, is with Patrick Mahomes. He was not talked a lot about when he was at the collegiate level with Texas Tech. He wasn't talked a lot about until we knew he was going to be sitting the whole entire first year after behind Alex Smith. And then you're hearing during the season, like, Patrick Mahomes is the future of the NFL, which still, you can't take that to the bank and deposit it. But, you know, I think having that opportunity to sit behind someone and then also not be the focus of everything, because if you've got time to develop and really just work on your craft, that's one thing. But if you're Caleb Williams, now you've got all of the hype. Like with Bryce Young this year, he's got a lot of hype. First pick overall. He's also got to answer all of the size questions. Mm-hmm. And so that can be a distraction, I think, for a first-year guy.
Yeah, I think comparing anybody to Patrick Mahomes is foolish and not fair to the player.
Yeah.
I think what we're watching Patrick Mahomes do is so... I don't know if otherworldly, but it's close to it. Like, just the stuff he does and the way he plays the game is just so unique that hoping anybody is going to play the same is kind of, you're setting yourself up for failure, I believe. Like you said, he came in, didn't exactly have the same pressure. And then not to mention he got paired with Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, like two guys that benefit off his play style so much more than some other guys would. And I mean, it was just the perfect situation. And I mean, if he had gone to, you know, like,
the Jets
or Indianapolis or Cleveland, would he have been the same?
Still talking
would he be
about
the same
Mahomes?
Player? I mean, who knows? And I don't know if his skill set is very similar. Like, I feel like he relies so much more on his feet than Patrick Mahomes did coming out. Not that Patrick Mahomes didn't, but I feel Caleb Williams relies on a little bit more. But I think he can make some of those off-script plays, and I think he has some of those off-arm angles that people are trying to make those parallels to, but trying to compare anybody to Patrick Mahomes, I think, is tough.
Right. I'll even go as far as to say, now Tom Brady's still the GOAT, no doubt, but we've seen Patrick Mahomes take the team, put it on his back, and win them ball games multiple times now. Still a smaller sample size than Tom Brady, maybe smaller than what Tom Brady will stay smaller than what Tom Brady gave us. But I talk about that all the time. Like, without Malcolm Butler, Tom Brady's got 6. Without you take away Eli Manning and he never plays in the league, then he's got 2 more, and we're talking about 9 at that point in time. But you know what I'm saying, though? Like, they in football in general, but you have to rely on the whole team effort in team sports. But I think with Patrick Mahomes, it's a little bit different just because we've seen it time and time again now, his ability to just take the game over.
Like, I think for me, it's kind of a similar, like the Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady is very similar to Randy Moss, Jerry Rice in my mind. Because, I mean, Jerry Rice is the GOAT, right? But would you believe that Jerry Rice was actually a better receiver than Randy Moss in his prime? I mean, just physically what Randy Moss could do, Jerry Rice can't. And it's nothing against Jerry Rice. I know he's the GOAT, but I feel like
the longevity
of his career is key. And
but there's got to be something said about that, though.
There is, and that's why he's the GOAT. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, in their peak, do you think at a time Randy Moss was a better wide
like
receiver?
Instead of it being Chris Carter, it's Randy Moss and Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
Who would be the number one option? Or maybe put them in the same division, because if you put 2 great receivers on the same...
Do you think Patty Mahomes' ceiling is higher than Tom Brady's? I think that's a yes.
Yeah, I would say that right now. But to get 7 of them is going to be... I mean, but he only needs 5 more.
It's an interesting debate.
But then also on the flip side of that, though, is... Joe Burrow did come in with all the expectations, did go to a team that was not coached by Andy Reid and did not have Travis Kelce and did not have a plethora of weapons. So it's like, should we be, and I don't think anyone's disrespecting Joe Burrow by any means, but what he's doing over there is very special. I guess Jamar Chase,
T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I mean, he's not playing with him.
Right. No doubt. I'm just saying, I guess it's just the franchise of the Bengals that's like, wow, that's impressive that he brought them to the daggum Super Bowl with the Bengals
for the first time in like 20-something.
Yeah. Just winning a playoff game
and stuff like that. It's great to see for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Got a couple of trades rolling through. Diamondbacks are getting Tommy Pham. Flaherty is going to the Orioles, though, so that's huge because the Orioles were one of 3 teams that were in on Justin Verlander. So now Jack Flaherty is headed to the Orioles. They needed a trade. We'll see how they do in the American League East as we get ready to wrap up the season. Well, we still got about 2 months left, about 40-something games or so, maybe 50 games, but it will be behind us before you know it, especially with football season just on the horizon. It's the Afternoon Underdogs right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to take a quick little timeout, pay the bills, and when we return, we'll get into our Pac-12 prediction.
Our 4th installment.
I don't need a whole lot of money.
ESPN Northwest Florida is already your home for the most live and local sports talk. And now we're taking...
Oh, he got all of that one.
The Inside Drive. Ryan Mulvey, middays, 11 to 1 inside the Bill Kramer Chevrolet Buick GMC and Kramer Marine Outdoor Studios. The latest reactions to the biggest stories happening right now. Plus, interviews, sports betting, and your calls.
You gotta be pleased with that.
On ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida this Tuesday. For tonight, mostly clear skies and a low of 82 with a calm wind at 3 miles per hour coming out of the west. Tomorrow morning, mostly sunshine with temps around 90. In the afternoon and evening, partly sunny and a temperature near 90. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Chuck was terrible at fishing. He spent many frustrating hours attempting to get results he saw from internet videos, aggravating trial and error fishing trips, and misguided advice from well-intended friends. Chuck is happy now with his newfound success after he visited Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, where we keep fishing fun, simple, and successful. See us soon at Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, located directly off Highway 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach.
ESPN Northwest Florida is an active member of the Panama City Beach Chamber. We want to introduce the newest members to the Beach Chamber: Baytown Bridal, Coastal Palms Real Estate, Alzheimer Association, Fatty Patty's Cafe, Meg's Contracting Services, PLLC, MAA, the Club of Panama Beach, People's South Bank, and Strategic Wealth Group. Congratulations from the only local sports talk station, ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Atlanta Braves play here.
And the Braves are back in front.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WFLQ Port St. Joe, ESPN Northwest Florida. Often imitated, never duplicated. The official sports station of the Panhandle. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we're back with hour number 2 of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida. It's David Hayes and Tyler Bishop, and we're going to get to something we've been working on now for 4 weeks.
Something like that, it feels like.
Each Tuesday. So when on Tuesdays, I have Tyler Bishop with me, and we kept on, like, whenever we're texting about show prep, all right, we're going to do the Pac-12. These are the teams you're going to look at. I'm going to take control of these teams and then, do the arrivals, departures, all that good stuff, hard games on the schedule. Then, we were trying to do that, and it was just like, you know what? Let's just do our record predictions. I think that'll work out a little bit better. So we left off with the last that we did is Oregon, and I don't see a single a single L that I have on for Oregon. So
I had Oregon with 11-1. So
you had them going. Oh wait, yep. I had the loss to Washington. What do you have?
Same.
All right, so we both have Oregon right now has the best record according to our record predictions with a 11-1 record. We'll move on here to Oregon State. Oregon State is going to start their season off at the house, on the road.
Some weird road games.
Very much so. They're playing San Jose State, and they're on the road here. And this is actually going to be a Sunday game in week 1, right before Labor Day. So you'll get a little Sunday football before the NFL starts this year, as you normally do. And we're going to start off with a win for Oregon State. Will it be I guess the big question is DJU going to be leading the Beavers?
But I think their schedule sets up nicely. They can bounce back between DJU and their incumbent starter and see who really thrives in their offense in real situations. But I got them starting off with a W as well.
Then they host UC Davis, the Aggies. I've got another win there for Oregon State.
Same.
Move on to San Diego State. They host San Diego State in the third week of the season. This one I'm a little like San Diego State is one of those teams that can really be a thorn in your side and a thorn to your season in general. At this point in time, though, I'm going to ride with, I just don't know enough about San Diego State and what they're bringing back. So I'm going to ride with Oregon State to have them starting 3-0.
Same. Yeah, no, I got the same.
They move on to take on the Cougars. They are on the road taking on Washington State. And I'm going to go another win for Oregon State. Start out 4-0.
I got them too. The Beavers are going to be, I think the Beavers are going to make a little bit of noise this year.
And they were, 10-2 last year, right?
10-3 last year.
10-3 after the bowl game, yeah. So 10-3 in the bowl game, and or 10-3 losing the bowl game. Who knows? Starting out 4-0 to this point. Then they got the Utes, but the good thing here, the positive side of this, is that they're hosting the Utes of Utah. I am going to give them their first blemish of the year here. I've got Utah.
I think this is going to be a great game. I think their two teams going to be built kind of similarly, but Friday night home game, I like the home team always. So give me the win over the Utes, the defending Pac-12 champs.
Yeah, nice little Friday. I'll more than likely be calling a high school football game for Mosley at that point in time, but the game doesn't even start till 8. Yeah, I was about to say the game doesn't even start till 8, though, so I'm sure by the time I get home, they'll be wrapping things up. California, they are on the road for their next game against Cal and the Golden Bears there. One of the, I guess now will be a stalwart, a fixture of the Pac-12 moving forward if that conference survives. I've got a win here for Oregon State.
Same.
UCLA, they're hosting UCLA. That'll be homecoming as well on Saturday, October 14th. I've got Oregon State winning this one.
Same. I've got them 7-0 going into the bye.
I've got them 6-1, which is pretty daggone.
They're going to be making some noise. They'd be top 14-ish probably around that point.
Right. That's pretty good stuff right there. Next, they've got Arizona. They're on the road taking on Arizona after a bye week. So again, and Arizona's a team that's been linked to the Big 12. I've got Oregon State getting another W.
Same. I already have Arizona. I had Arizona losing that game earlier in our predictions. So
just trying to make sure that I don't mess any of these up. You know what I mean?
Keep the continuity going.
Yeah, exactly. So next on the schedule, they've got Colorado and the Buffaloes, and that will be in Boulder, Colorado. I'm going to give them a loss because I've already given Colorado the win here.
Hey, I've already given Colorado the L, so that makes it even.
There we go, 50-50. Next, they are hosting Stanford with just 3 games left on the schedule here. Week 11, I've got Oregon State winning.
I've got Oregon State sitting at a clean 10-0 going into the last 2 games of the season. 2 toughest games of the season, probably. But
good night, dude. You might need to put a little money on the
I got
the win total right now, for real. All right, then they've got the toughest stretch of the year, bar none. They're hosting Washington in Week 12. I've got Washington winning that game.
I've got Washington winning that one. Oregon State takes their first loss.
All right, and then they're on the road taking on the Ducks of Oregon. And again, I've got Oregon winning that game. You got any surprises for me over here?
No, I already had Oregon winning that game. So I got the Beavers at a nice 10-2, though. I mean, tough 2-game stretch to close out the year, but that's a good year right there.
Yeah, no doubt. And for me, I've got them sitting at, I did some bad math there, 8-4. I have 9-4 on the paper, though, because I can't count. So
9-4 in 12 games would be very impressive.
Yeah, it would be. 8-4, though, for Oregon State. Now we'll move on to Stanford, who opens up their season. Is this on the road or is this neutral site here? They've got the Rainbow Warriors of Hawaii. So who do you like in Week 1 between Stanford and Hawaii?
I may live to regret this pick, but I've got Stanford getting a rare win this season against Hawaii.
All right, yeah. So yeah, it is in Honolulu. That game's going to be kicking off at 10 o'clock Eastern here. So Stanford, Hawaii. I've got Stanford starting out the season 1-0. All right, move on to game number 2, which is on the road taking on USC. Who do you like in that one?
I got SC. I don't think that game should be particularly close if they come out to play.
All right. Next, they're on the road. They are hosting Sacramento State. I think that's an easy W for Stanford.
Yep.
Now they've got Arizona, again, linked to the Big 12 there. I'm going to take Arizona in this game.
Yeah, I've already had Arizona penciled in as a win on that one, so it's a loss for Stanford.
Stanford and Oregon. I've got Oregon winning that game.
Same.
Then they get the bye week. Then they've got Colorado. Let me go over here to Colorado, and I've got Colorado winning that game.
I've got Colorado winning one of Colorado's few wins this year.
All right. Stanford is going to be hosting UCLA in Week 8. Who do you like in that one?
Oh, I've got UCLA. I do not have any more W's on the
no
the
more W's for you? Yeah.
They're at 2-10 for me.
I've got UCLA. Then we'll move on here. I guess you don't even got to answer anymore. When it comes to Washington, I've got Washington. Washington State. They're going to be on the road at Washington State. I've got Washington State and the Cougars there. Then they'll be taking on Oregon State.
How I feel about the Beavers this year. Believer.
Yeah, a Beaver believer. Yes, absolutely. I've got the Beavers winning that one. Then we've got Cal here for Week 12. They'll be hosting Cal.
The game.
I've got Cal winning that there. The Golden Bears taking care of business. And then they're going to end the season here with Notre Dame. Week 13, they'll be hosting Notre Dame.
Notre Dame potentially could be fighting for a playoff spot at that point.
Right.
So that could be a really interesting game if Stanford could keep it close and maybe try to play spoiler. But, I've got them losing that one as well.
I've got Stanford with the second worst record in the Pac-12 to this point, only behind Cal. Did I have Cal winning that game? No. Yeah, I had Cal winning it. So Stanford's going 3-9 according to my prediction. Next, we got UCLA. They're going to start the season with the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina, which I'm sure you'll be hearing lots about this game when it comes to the inside drive. So starting off, who do you like there? You like UCLA or the Chants?
I misread the schedule initially, and I thought it was a road game for UCLA, so I was going to pick Coastal. But I think with it being a West Coast game, I think UCLA pulls it out.
Man, this one is one where I wish that we could have the spread.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, give me the numbers, because I feel like the Chants are going to finish within that spread. They may not win this game, but they're going to make it very close. And I would not even be talking like this if Grayson McCall didn't come back. But because he's back, I like what they've got brewing over there. I'm going to give the win to UCLA right now, but just hear me out. When we get a little closer to week one,
to quote Lee Corso.
But once we get to week one, I might flip my pick all the way. You know what I mean? I might flip it just over there to Coastal Carolina. But for now, it's a win for UCLA. We'll move on to the next game on the schedule, where they're on the road again to those San Diego State Aztecs. Who do you like in that one?
I got the Bruins.
I'm going to take. Let's see, what did they do? Who was playing San Diego State? Oh, it's Oregon. Oregon State. They've got them in week 3. I'm actually going to go with the loss here. San Diego State is going to upset UCLA in week 2. We'll move on to their third game, which is going to be, do you know who that logo is?
Do not.
Me neither. It's the North Carolina Central Eagles, and UCLA. Yeah, you should have known that one. Come on. UCLA is going to be hosting that game in the third week of the season. I like UCLA.
Yeah, if I don't know who your mascot is, I don't have a whole lot of faith in your team. So,
That's a good point. That's a good point. You're just a directional school at that point, huh? But no, we'll go to the fourth week of the season, and they are on the road taking on Cam Rising and the Utes. I've got Utah on that one.
Yep, I've got the Utes taking that one too. So that gives them the first loss for me for UCLA.
Then they get an early bye week. Then they are hosting the Cougars of Wazoo, Washington State there. I like UCLA in this game.
Same, I got Wazoo taking the L there.
All right, then it's Oregon State, and I've got Oregon State taking down the Bruins of UCLA.
Go Beavs.
All right, we'll move on to Stanford, and I've got UCLA beating Stanford.
Yep, Stanford taking a loss is going to be the usual this year.
Then Colorado on the road. They're in UCLA taking on the Bruins. I've got Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes coming out on top in that one.
Yeah, I remember you had Colorado pulling up that upset. I do not.
Yeah, I do not. I do not. Then in week 10 here, they've got the Wildcats of Arizona. They're on the road there, and I don't even know what I have here because I've got 2 different ones. I think it's a loss for Arizona, which is a win for UCLA.
That's what I've got down as well.
All right, Arizona State, they've got them in week 11, and they're at the house. I like Arizona State, I believe. Yeah, I like I like UCLA in this one.
Yeah, I've got UCLA winning that one as well.
Final 2 weeks of the season, they've got South Carolina. They've got Southern Cal, USC in the Coliseum. I like USC.
Yeah, I think Caleb Williams is just too much for UCLA this year.
And then they'll wrap the season up with Cal, and I've got UCLA winning that game there, which I have them at a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 5. That's a decent record for UCLA.
I've got them at a sporty 9-3.
And here's something that, I don't think that there's any way that they go 9-3 though. Just because of, and maybe, I don't know who the quarterback coming in is, but last year I feel like a lot of the success UCLA was generating was, Dorian Thomas Robinson, which they don't have him anymore. So I don't know if they'll be as good. 7-5 is not too shabby. 9-3 would be great. We're going to go over to the Trojans of USC, and they start off their season in week 0 against the Spartans of San Jose State, which is a win for SC.
Yep, it's cool for college football fans getting to see Caleb Williams a week early, reigning Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, that's a good point. Then in week 2, they've got Nevada and the Wolfpack there.
Yeah, I've got SC taking that one as well. Nevada has been a fun team to watch over the years, but they shouldn't be able to keep up with SC.
That's a win for SC there for me as well. Then in the 3rd week of the season, they've got Stanford, another win, starting off 3-0 before the bye. What you got?
I've got the same. Yeah, they got the early bye because they're playing week 0, so it's kind of a neat feature in their schedule this year. They get 2 byes.
Yeah, that is true. Then again, that bye week, then they're on the road in Tempe, Arizona, taking on Arizona State, and I've got Arizona State losing that game. Trying to trick you up there.
I've got Arizona State losing that one as well. I already know what you had. You already went over
it. All right, then USC's got Colorado. They're on the road in Boulder, taking on Colorado, and I like the Trojans.
Same. I think it's too much for Dion too soon in his Colorado tenure.
And then Arizona, I like USC.
Yep, same. I don't think Arizona's going to have a whole lot of success, although it looks like it's a Friday. It's hard to tell at the bottom there, but that may be a Friday night game, which could make it a little interesting.
We're talking about Arizona's game?
Arizona.
It's a Saturday. It's October 7th. But it's TBA at this point in time right now.
It says Friday or Saturday at the bottom, now that I look a little closer. So it makes it a little...
Oh, yeah. Golly, I don't even know how you made that out, but now I understand it. We're moving on here to October 14th, and in week 7, it's SC and Notre Dame. I'm going with USC here, but that's going to be one that it will definitely be on the TV and possibly even on the radio when we get the schedule out from ESPN.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how that one goes. I'm anxious to see how year 2 of Marcus Freeman goes. He had kind of an up and down year 1, so we'll see how he does at Notre Dame this year.
A team that handed USC 2 of their 3 losses last year, Utah. They get them at the house this year in week 8. Who do you like? You like Cam Rising or Caleb Williams?
Man, I wanted to take Utah, but I think if SC and Caleb Williams are going to be who people want them to be, they're going to win this type of game, revenge for last year. So I'm gonna take their word for it, and I'm gonna take USC to pull that one out.
That's where I'm at right now. Is I'm gonna go ahead and give SC the win, but
I reserve the right to change my mind as we get a little closer. Though.
Yeah, well, I doubt we're gonna be bringing these up because at that point we're gonna be in the mid. We're gonna be picking 10 college football games a week this year and 5 NFL. So we're gonna have a little twist and picking the best of both worlds. SC's got Cal in week 9. They're on the road. I've got the Trojans.
Yep. Cal's going to be bad this year, I feel like. So
then Washington, they are hosting Washington in week 10. You like the Trojans or the Huskies?
I like the Trojans. I think this could be like a 55-58 type game. I think it's going to be a lot of points scored. 2 great quarterbacks, but I think at the end of the day, Caleb Williams makes one more play than Michael Penix.
I have to agree with you. And if honestly their next opponent wasn't their next opponent, which is the Oregon Ducks, and they're on the road, this one would more than likely be a win for the Huskies on the road for me. But I'm going to give it to SC in this particular game because next up is the Oregon Ducks, and they are in Eugene on the road, the Trojans are. And I like Bo Nix and the Oregon Ducks to take down SC in this position.
Heisman Bo takes down Caleb Williams.
There we go, man. Hey, I mean, start bench cut. Bo Nix, Jordan Travis, and someone else.
Joe Milton.
Joe Milton. Yeah, all right. Bye, Joe. Hey, but who knows, though? He could come out and have like a Hendon Hooker type season, and then everyone is all over the Volunteers again. And then the final game of the season for the Trojans is going to be the Bruins of UCLA. We just got done doing that, and it is a win for for the Trojans, which has my schedule looking at 11-1 for USC.
Yeah, I think we had the same across the board there. Interesting enough, they do have a bye going into the last game of the year, which will give them a nice advantage going into the Pac-12 title game.
They're going to need it if they play anyway like they did last year. Plus, I mean, Caleb Williams has got to get into the manicure place whenever.
He's got to get his session in before
he gets exactly, right before he's heading to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. All right, let's look at Utah's schedule. They're starting out the year taking on the Florida Gators, and this is
Thursday or Saturday is what it says.
Thursday or Saturday. So let me look up the schedule right quick and see where we're at right now. But Thursday or Saturday is going to be huge. So right now it is a Thursday game. It's a Thursday game, 7 o'clock. That's how the season is starting, and this time not in Florida. We're not in the swamp. We're in Salt Lake City in the elevation in Utah there. Do you like Florida or Utah?
I got to go Utah here. I had Utah last year. I think that game could have gone either way, and I think this year Florida could be worse week one with their quarterback situation. So give me Cam Rising in the Utes, even though he may be injured that first week. So it could be a little bit closer than the experts think. That's a big spread right now.
If Cam Rising's out, I've got Florida. If Cam Rising's out, I've got Florida. But I trust Cam Rising more than what the unknown is. Essentially, Graham Mertz, how does he fit into that Florida system? So for me, I'm going to go with a win for the Utes there. Then they go from the SEC to the Big 12, and it's going to be Utah hosting the Baylor Bears. Oh, no. This is going to be
Baylor.
Yeah, but I said Utah hosting the Baylor Bears. It's Baylor hosting Utah. Man. I'm going to let you lead off with this one, brother.
Yeah, I think this two teams built very similarly. I think it's going to be a tight game. I could even see it being kind of a lower, like 24-21 type game, 27-24, somewhere in there. But I've got Utah. I think they've got a little bit more experience at quarterback. If Cam Rising's healthy, that's a big plus for them going into that game.
Who is Baylor? Is it still Shapen over there?
Maybe. I'm honestly not 100% sure.
Yeah, Blake Shapen, I believe. Yeah. He is going to be the starting quarterback. Oh, man, that makes it even daggum tougher. I love what Dave Aranda has been doing over there with the Baylor Bears. I believe that the Big 12 is a better conference than the Pac-12. I think that what we're seeing right now is virtue of that, is a ruling towards that, connection towards that. I'm going to take Baylor, and I think a lot of the Utes. I really do, but I'm going to take Baylor in this game, and I hope that they're wearing some beautiful yellow uniforms.
Nice yellow versus black or something. That would be a cool color matchup there.
Yeah,
Where's
no
Miles
doubt.
at?
Right? We're going to have to make that a segment this year where it's like, or just like, all right, everyone, vote for your favorite uniform matchup on the list of games that we have for each and every week. That would be a lot of fun. All right, moving on here. Weber State Wildcats, Utah hosting them there. That's a win for Utah.
Hopefully it's a big dub.
All right, UCLA. They're hosting UCLA in week 4. I've got that as a win for Utah.
Same, I got UCLA losing that one. So.
And then Oregon State, I've got Utah winning.
Hey, I've got Beaver Believer over here.
They're on the road there taking on Oregon State. Then they've got the bye week. Then they host Cal. I've got Utah winning that one.
Same.
Then we've got SC, and I've got the Trojans winning that one.
Yep.
And then Oregon hosts Utah in week 9 here. Who do you like in that one?
I've got Oregon State. That's a tough 4-game skid. I got them losing 3 of the last 4.
Yeah. And then they're going to be hosting Arizona State. I've got Utah winning that game.
Yep.
Washington is on the road taking on Utah. That's one that we have, like, you can't go back and look at what you pick because you don't know. So who you leading off with or who you rolling with?
I got Utah winning that one. I think they're going to be Washington's going to be coming off a big game against Southern Cal, and I think Utah, kind of what they did against South Carolina last year, too physical for them, and ends up pulling out the W.
I like Washington in this game. I like Washington. Then Arizona, they're also on the road for Arizona. I like Utah in that game.
Yep, big dub.
And then final game of the season is going to be Colorado, and I've got Utah beating Colorado.
Same, and I could see Whittingham not being a huge Deion fan, so if he can, I could see that one getting a little ugly, honestly. I could see him kind of intentionally running up the score a little bit. If I just don't see them vibing very well.
It would be a little bit of a disappointment to have the year that Utah had last year and then turn around and have the record that I just gave them of 8-4.
I gave them a sporty 9-3.
9-3. Hey, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Guess what? Still not done with a Pac-12 preview. So we're going to dive right back into that when we return and see how much we can finish of the Big 12.
ESPN Northwest Florida presents The Blast at Bay Point. Listen to Win Your Tea Time at the legendary Bay Point Golf Club in beautiful Panama City Beach.
You ready to play some high-low? I'm going to try.
Listen weekdays at 8:40, 12:40, and 5:40 to play high-low for a chance to win 18 holes at Bay Point Golf Club.
I tell you what, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to love it.
Listen to Win the Blast at Bay Point from ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida this Tuesday. For tonight, mostly clear skies and a low of 82 with a calm wind at 3 miles per hour coming out of the west. Tomorrow morning, mostly sunshine with temps around 90. In the afternoon and evening, partly sunny and a temperature near 90. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumberyard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
Did you know that fees associated with real estate closings are virtually the same from one title company to the next? So what sets South Oak Title apart? Effective communication, customer service, expertise, and technology. If you're buying or selling real estate, refinancing a residential or commercial property, tell your realtor you want to close with South Oak Title. South Oak Title, with locations across the Southeast, including Panama City Beach, Inlet Beach, Destin, and Fort Walton Beach. Visit them online at southoaktitle.com.
The mission?
Your mission, should you decide to accept it.
Save the panhandle from boring cookie-cutter radio. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
The state will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome back. It's the Afternoon Underdogs. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. It's 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. ESPN Northwest Florida is your home for the Atlanta Braves, and coverage starts for the Braves and the Angels tonight at 6, and then first pitch tonight at 6:20. The Atlanta Braves are sponsored locally by Bill Bird Kia, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Mid-South Lumber, Stormore Portable Buildings, and Brock Pest Control. We've got about two more teams, or not about, we have definitively two more teams here in the Pac-12 to get our record predictions out, and then we will try to get into the Big 12. However, you just brought something up pertaining to the Big 10, and I want to dive into that, or at least conversate a little bit about it. And any Florida State fans, Clemson fans, any college football fans would love to hear your thoughts via text or call 850-215-6290. And our last measure of business to deal with here in this particular segment will be, if you do play fantasy football and you'd like to be a part of the huge ESPN Northwest Florida Fantasy Football League, we've got 4 leagues. Next year, the Champions League goes from 12 teams to 16 teams. You've got to get in on the action. It is free, and it's a ton of fun. And we do our live draft. All 4 drafts happening at the same time. It's a ton of fun. I've got 9 spots left. Text now 850-215-6290 with your name, your email, and that you're available for the live draft, which is August 26th at 11 a.m. If anything changes, I will always keep you guys up to date on that. 850-215-6290. All right, Tyler, we left off with one of the more intriguing teams in the Pac-12 this year, for at least for me, especially with what we saw from Penix last year and what I assume we could see this year. So we're going to start it off with Washington, and they kicked the season off against the Boise State Broncos. Who do you like?
I like Washington. I think that's going to be a high-flying offense. I'm kind of looking at it now, a little disappointed with the record I ended up giving them, but not bad. But I think this is one of those teams that could legitimately be a sleeper for the college football playoff if a few things go their way. So I've got them winning against Boise State.
Absolutely. All right. So I think I'm going to go with in the same direction as you. We just got another entry, so that leaves us down to 8 entries for fantasy football. 8 entries left for fantasy football. If you'd like to play, make sure you're texting 850-215-6290. And now, riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, you're on the line. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Which one to talk about?
State Seminoles.
Florida State Seminoles. What's on the docket for the Florida State Seminoles? We were actually just going to dive into that discussion on would you like to see, and first off, who am I talking with here?
Sure.
All right. So do you think Florida State, would you like to see them in the ACC, the SEC, or the Big Ten?
I think they are fine in the ACC, but if they go in the SEC, they're going to have like a lot of trouble.
All right, it could help their recruiting, no doubt about it. So, are you a big Florida State fan? And who's your favorite player on the squad right now?
Probably Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis. You think JT could come away with the Heisman this year?
Maybe. I don't know.
Absolutely. So if you got to choose, let's say that, the football gods came down and said, all right, young man, it's your decision here. Florida State can only win one of these games. It's LSU and it's Clemson. Who would you rather see Florida State, or who would you pick Florida State to win against?
I think an ACC championship would help them with the national championship, so I'd say Clemson.
Okay, we got a stud on the line right now, man. You're going to have to get you and your dad, whoever this is, and come and do a little Friday segment with us sometime, and we'll talk all about the Noles for a little bit. What game on the schedule for you are you circling right now? What's the game that Florida State's playing outside? Of course, the first one you're extremely hyped about. Everyone is. But what's a game that's not Clemson, that's not Florida, and it's not LSU that you're like, I can't wait for this game this year?
I think the Wake Forest one. We need revenge.
Hey, there you go, man. I love that answer. Are you glad Sam Hartman's not with Wake Forest anymore and up there at Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Who's your NFL team?
The Saints.
Saints. Awesome, man. You like the addition of Derek Carr?
Yeah, I mean, it'll help them.
Absolutely. They got a great defense, too. Hey, man, we've got to get back to this Pac-12 preview, but we really appreciate the call.
No problem.
Awesome, man. 850-215-6290 is the number to call. We'll wrap up this Pac-12 preview, or record projection. It's not necessarily a preview, but a record projection here. And we left off with Washington. You've got Washington taking Boise State down in week 1. Yeah. I'm going to have to agree with you. I like Washington in week 1 taking on Boise State. Then they get to host the Golden Hurricanes of Tulsa there. Who do you like in that one? I'm riding with the Huskies.
I'm riding with the Huskies. Michael Penix, they put on a show for us.
Now we get a little Big Ten, Pac-12 action. Michigan State on the road taking on Washington. Is this the resurgence year? Is this what Michigan State and the Spartans have been waiting for from Mel Tucker and the Spartans? I'm going to have to say that Washington comes out on top here.
Yeah, I'm a big Mel Tucker guy, but I think Washington is going to be too much for them this year.
If it was a little later in the year, like if we're looking at an early November, a late October game, I think that I'm thinking differently about this game. But because it's just week 3 of the season, we're still in September. I like Washington there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And then they're going to be hosting Cal in week 4 back home there. I like Washington.
Yep, Cal's taking the L there.
Then they've got Arizona in what is week 5. Yeah, week 5 here. And I've got Washington winning that one as well, starting off hot before the bye week.
Yeah, they're 5-0 going into the bye. They could be looking at like a top 15, top 13 type ranking there.
All right, after the bye week, then they host Oregon. Who do you got in that game?
I got Oregon taking that one. That's going to be a hard game for them to lose, but especially coming out the bye. But somebody's got to lose it, and I'm banking on Dan Lanning and Bo Nix.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Win number 6 for the Huskies. Michael Penix beating out Bo Nix here early on into the season, or about midway through the season.
Oh wait, no, I want to say I had
Washington.
I had Oregon losing that one. I had it backwards, so I did have Oregon winning that one.
Oh, baby! Sometimes dyslexia works out for
myself.
You. All right, Arizona State is in week 8, and that game will be played in Washington, and I've got Washington winning that game.
Yeah, so now they'll be sitting at 7-0
at that point. Then they are on the road taking on Stanford, but still should be a pretty easy dub for the Huskies. Then they're on the road taking on the Trojans of SC, and this is one I have to look back at real quick, and that is going to be a win. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong one.
That's what I did with the Oregon game. I had had it backwards.
That is a loss there for Washington. First one on the year, though.
Yep.
And then they're going to be taking on Utah, hosting that game, and that one is another win for the Huskies. Man,
I had Utah taking that one, so they dropped the second one in a row.
Now we go look at Oregon State, and Oregon State is on the road taking on Washington, and I've got Washington winning that game to push themselves to a record of 10-1.
I've got Oregon State dropping that one, so that puts them at 9-2. Going in the rivalry game against Wazoo.
And then that'll wrap up Washington. And I've got Washington going 11-1, tied with Oregon for the best record. Oh, wait, no. That's a three-way tie now between USC, Oregon, and Washington. And the way I've got it all set up, I believe, is they all kind of beat each other.
Yeah,
so
you've got a nice, messy situation for the Pac-12 going into the Pac-12
It'll
title
get
game.
better. I mean, if y'all want us to talk about the Pac-12 over here, we're going to need something like that.
Just trying to give the people what they want to see.
Absolutely.
I've got them at 10-2, but they could swap one of those losses to a W. They could be sitting for a playoff berth.
All right, our last schedule that we're going to look at here for the Pac-12 is going to be Washington State, and they're going to be kicking the season off against Colorado State on the road there. This one's, not one that we've picked, but I'm going to take this is a coin flip. I feel like just about every game on this schedule is either a loss or a coin flip for the Cougars of Washington State. I'm going to take Washington State.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird game playing at Colorado State, but I've got Washington State pulling that one out as well.
Then they are hosting a Big Ten team in Wisconsin and getting a look at Luke Fickell there. I'm going to ride with Wisconsin in this game.
Same. I like Luke Fickell. I think he's trying to make a statement early in his Wisconsin tenure. And I'm not saying Washington State's a statement win, but it's a statement loss if you're going to lose that game, I feel like. So,
do you know who this next logo is?
Yeah, I do not.
This is Northern Colorado Bears. The Northern Colorado Bears. I mean, the Bears. You could have got the mascot for sure, but never in my life would have, I guess, Northern Colorado. And as a guy who played a lot of NCAA football, as I'm sure you did, I feel like I'm pretty good at the logo game and those obscure schools like, oh, yeah, I know who that is. And I had a clue who the Northern Colorado Bears were, but they are on the road taking on, or Washington State is hosting Northern Colorado, which should be an easy win for Wazoo.
If I don't recognize your logo, I can't pick you to win.
There you go.
That's true.
Before the bye, they are going to be Wazoo's hosting Oregon State. That's a loss for Wazoo.
Yep, I had that down as a win for Oregon State, so sorry about it.
Then they've got a tie in Week 5 for the bye week. Then after that, Week 6, they're on the road taking on the Bruins of UCLA, and that is a loss for Wazoo.
Loss.
Then in Week 7, it is Arizona Wazoo's hosting Arizona. I've got Arizona coming away with a win there.
I got the Cougs taking that one.
Then they're on the road. Wazoo is taking on Oregon and then Arizona State. I've got Oregon winning that game, and I also believe I have Arizona State winning later on, or winning the very next week. Yeah, that's going to be a win for Arizona State, so back-to-back losses there for Wazoo.
I got them losing to the Ducks, but they pull it out against the Sun Devils.
Then they're back at the house. They've got they've got Stanford there, and that's going to be a win for Wazoo, which, again, that's a coin flip game. I'm not going to pretend like I have any idea what's going on
When in
there.
doubt, I win against Stanford, so I went with Wazoo.
All right. Then you've got Cal, who's taking them on in Week 11, and that is going to be another win for. I think Wazoo is getting the benefit of the doubt that we're doing theirs last.
They got lucky. They got lucky late in the schedule there, late on the sheet, and I was betting against a lot of teams here.
Exactly. Then Colorado is going to be hosting Wazoo in Week 12. I've got Colorado.
I've got Wazoo.
And then the final game of the year is going to be against the Huskies of Washington, which Wazoo is on the road there for that rivalry game. Obviously, we just did Washington, and Washington came away as the victor. So let's count these L's up.
I've got them at a gentleman's 7-5.
I've got 4-8.
Well, hey, that's quite the gap there. Well, it's somewhere in the middle.
Wait, you've got them at 7-5?
I've got them. Well, Wisconsin, Oregon State, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington.
Yeah, I got them at 4-8. So I've got them beating Colorado State, Northern Colorado, Stanford, and Cal. Those are the.
Hey, there's a lot of those.
Wait, you got Wazoo beating Colorado?
Yeah.
Crumble your paper up and throw it out of here. No, just no. We need those for our records for later, at least for bragging. Because what I'm going to do with everyone else too, since we've primarily been doing this on Tuesday, is trying to get us, hyped up for college football and everything. But I'm going to try to get everyone who's involved with the Afternoon Underdogs with their projections and everything, so we can take a gander at them at the end of the year. Florida State Clemson, Oregon, Washington have been rumored by, I believe it was someone off of Barstool Sports who probably was in his basement, was like, this sounds fun. Anyways, the rumor kind of, took off a little bit, and so there has been speculation. And he said it was happening this week. Oregon, Washington, Florida State, Clemson to the Big Ten. How would you like that? Let's just focus kind of primarily there on Florida State. Is this a good thing for Florida State?
I think it's a great thing for Florida State. I mean, obviously everybody's kind of vying to become part of the Big 12 or Big 10 or the SEC at this point. I mean, everybody's kind of banking on those two being the two super conferences, if that's where it gets. I've kind of said a few times, and I don't think that Clemson and Florida State are going to get enough support to join the SEC for a while. I mean, eventually their hand may get forced, but I could see teams like Alabama, Georgia, Florida not voting for those teams to come in. So you go to the Big Ten, you get that stability long term. You get some fun new away games at Ohio State, at Michigan, at Penn State. That creates some really fun crossover games until we get into maybe some bigger expansion and see how that shapes out. But I think everybody's trying to get a spot on one of those two things, and I wouldn't be a big fan of being in the ACC right now. Their grant of rights deal is awful, but that's the first major step. If you start hearing that deals have been reached where they can start breaking that contract, then you're going to know this stuff's real. If you don't hear any of that, the rest is just talk.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I feel like if you're the SEC and you're seeing the reality, let's say that it becomes reality of, or it's still rumors and it's not set in stone, but Oregon, Washington, Florida State, Clemson, I think if you're the SEC, you've got to make a march. You've got to take a shot at bringing Florida State and Clemson. Like, I think that those guys, you would rather see them in the SEC than you would the Big Ten. Coach Old says FSU to the Big Ten is a smart business move, but he's going to miss the cheap tickets. I mean, I guess you'll still have a few tickets, but that's the one thing that I don't think that these chancellors and presidents of the university are even taking thought of, is what that does to your fan base on some of these traveling games. Of course, some teams travel better than others, but when do we normally see that? Bowl season, when people got a little bit more time, you know what I mean? College football playoff and stuff like that. Yes, you're going to get a large portion of them traveling, but I don't know why you would want to do that to your fan base. Like, even like Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC isn't such a disparity, and this was without me looking at the actual mileage, but just kind of commonsensically, it seems like USC and UCLA are a lot further away from the mass schools in the Big Ten than what Texas and Oklahoma are from the majority of teams in the SEC.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to make it really interesting to see how, because it's not as easy for a Florida State fan to go up to like Madison, Wisconsin as it is to North Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a legitimate road trip on a weekend as opposed to a cross-country trek at that point. It's actually not something I thought a whole lot about, but it could end up being a big thing. And I wonder if then at that point home field advantage becomes a bigger thing in college football because there's less visiting fans because they're having to travel such greater distances.
And then, then here's the other thing, right? Of course you're going to get Florida State fans traveling to Ohio State, traveling to Michigan, traveling to Happy Valley for the whiteout games against Penn State. But what about some of those games where you're still going to need your fans to be there for you in a sense, like when you're playing, maybe not the Rutgers of the world, but Nebraska? We haven't even seen what Rule's done with them yet. And that's just getting started. So there's intrigue to it, but I would rather see Florida State and Clemson come to the SEC. But if it's going to work out that way, I feel like no matter what, if all four of those teams go to the Big Ten, Greg Sankey and the SEC has to answer, because when all of this started happening, again, not when it first started happening, but in our last sequence of moves, Oklahoma and Texas went to the SEC first. Then the Big Ten answers with USC and UCLA. So now, as that conference that's trying to be the trendsetter, if you let the Big Ten beat you to two more schools, now you're playing catch up. And it's all going to be the super conference stuff. But I don't want to see two super conferences. I want to see four. Like, if we're going to do it like that, because then you can divvy everything up. You can see most of these teams in the conference playing the other teams in the conference. And I can shut my mouth because I just realized I'm about a minute and a half over, and it's time for us to take a break. And when we return, we're going to dive into our local segment. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The tradition continues.
That ball is going to be out of here.
America's team plays here.
Bombs away.
The Atlanta Braves are back and making a statement.
Ronald Acuna just clobbered one to left.
Listen to Atlanta Braves baseball in a rich audio experience live on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Here comes the thunder.
Sponsored by Goldberg Kia, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Mid-South Lumber, Stormore Portable Buildings, and Brock Pest Control.
Ellis Agency Insurance has been serving Panama City and Bay County for years. They offer a full line of affordable insurance coverage of all types. Many people are attracted to Ellis Agency Insurance because of their friendly, knowledgeable staff. Call independent agent Johnny Ellis for a true comparison of your personal or business insurance. Ellis Agency Insurance at the Old Cullen Insurance location, 1134 Harrison Avenue, across from Dandy Donuts and Deli. Call 763-1627.
Your biggest investment is your home. Protect it while also improving its appearance with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. We have sand, mulch, gravel, or lay down decorative stone, all available for pickup and delivery. Discover your dream landscape with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Imagine the moment you proudly pull up to your home that you've worked so hard for, enhanced by quality mulch, decorative stones, and more. Let's make it happen today. Request a quote online at earthworkspc.com or swing by the office at 2005 Industrial Drive. Love the land you live on.
It moves fast. The High School Spotlight. Weekdays at 5:40.
Let's do it.
Sponsored by Barbaritos. ESPN Northwest Florida.
It is the final segment of the afternoon right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Make sure that you're tuned in to 104.3 here in Panama City and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. We've got 3 phenomenal local shows right here on our air. Kicking it off weekdays from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. with the Coach James Hale Show. Then following that from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey and Jay Henley. We wrap up your afternoons here from 4 to 6 p.m. the Afternoon Underdogs. Again, we've got 8 more spots left for fantasy football. If you'd like to play, text 850-215-6290 with your name and your email, and that you're available for our live draft August 26th at 11 a.m. Me and you've got a auction draft this Sunday, and I'm glad you reminded me because for some reason I was thinking August 5th was the date of the draft.
It is August 5th.
It is August 5th.
Well,
so Sunday is August, I believe it's the 6th.
Oh, well.
Anyways, I got my calendar all misconstrued. For some reason, I was thinking it was Saturday night. I don't know why I was thinking it was Saturday night, but do we have any preseason football Sunday evening?
I don't think so, because I think you have the Hall of Fame game Thursday. I don't think there's anything
until the next week. Yeah, so I got to wait a whole week to watch Malik Willis and Will Levis battle it out for who's going to be QB2. This is your local segment, and it's brought to you by Barbaritos. You can visit Barbaritos on 23rd Street and tell them that the Underdog sent you. Barbaritos, food community people. RJ Yeager, friend of the show. We've had him on a few times. He signed a free agent deal with the Cardinals, and he started in low A ball over there in Palm Beach last year and again this season. But late in June, they bumped him up to high A. He's had a 295 average with 5 home runs and 12 RBIs in 23 games. We got a little quote from him with an interview he did with Scott Rossman and WJHG. He said, "Absolutely, I do take that chip on my shoulder, and it's just kind of," and he runs with it. I was telling somebody the other day, I feel like I've kind of always been that way for some reason, and it ended up working out for me. Taking the Cardinals offer for a free agent deal, but I can't say I wasn't disappointed because I was, and I'm kind of just letting that fuel me. And I feel like, how often do we talk about athletes with chips on their shoulders and they've got something to prove, and you see them prove it?
Yeah.
So I love that stuff there. And then also Niceville Valparaiso sends First District 1 junior softball team to the Little League World Series from their coach, Jonathan McKissack. They're the first girls out of District 1 Little League to go to the World Series. And the fact that they get to go and represent now their region, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It really is, and I'll echo that. It really is, man. The furthest I ever got in the Little League World Series, all that stuff, was one step away from the Southeastern Regionals. Now, I did get to play at the stadium where they hold the Southeastern Regionals, if they still do hold it there, down there in St. Pete. But yeah, just that is a very special thing. They're now in a bracket with the 10 best junior softball teams in the world, and their pool features the defending champs from Michigan. This is going to be held in Kirkland, Washington, and it's from July 30th until August 5th. So great stuff there. Make sure we're rooting on for Niceville's Valparaiso team, which is really cool that they're up there for the Little League World Series of softball. Lots of great stuff, lots of injuries that we've had in the NFL world here, especially with training camp just getting kicked off. Well, what about Travis Kelce? Now, we saw, I think Jamison Williams, they've been talking about, he's suspended for the first 6 games of the season, but there was he's been in some scuffles as well, and apparently has been struggling in camp to this point. So we'll see what happens when we get our first look at him in week 7. I wonder if that, do you think if you're going to training camp, and it shouldn't be this way, but just kind of trying to put ourselves in their shoes, and you go to training camp, but you know you're suspended for the first 6 games, and you already feel like you have a pretty good grasp on the offense, being that it's your second year in there. Do you kind of mail it in training camp? I don't think that is a good way to look at it, but from their actual living the life perspective,
I think it's a bad sign if he is, because I mean that kind of shows that he may not have quite the dedication to get to where they want him to be, taking him where they did. But I think it's a perfectly natural human response to feel that way. So I mean, we'll hopefully it's just kind of a blip on the radar for him, because I think he's an explosive athlete. I want him to see him succeed and at his highest potential, because I think he's a very fun player to watch. But I think it's a natural thing. But you're not. If you're a professional athlete, you got to be better than normal, right? You got to be doing things above and beyond to really get there. And if that's not what he's doing, then that does not speak too well for his future.
How about the situation? Travis Kelce's also been in a couple of scuffles as well. He says he's got to be a better leader. I don't know if that's anything to. Did you watch any of the videos?
No, I did not.
It was basically he catches a touchdown, and then I believe it was number 43 comes in and kind of hits him a little late. It's not even like a real tackle, and then Kelce's just boom. Is the fame getting to Travis Kelce's head right now? He's got the New Heights podcast, which is, according to Barrett, the best sports podcast out there. But it is a really good podcast. But is the fame getting to his head, or is it just too early and this is nothing to worry about? I'll take the latter. I don't think this is anything
until there's reason to believe that there's something to worry about. I mean, I think that's just kind of his personality. He's just very big and very outgoing. And, you get 2 guys in the heat of the moment. You've ever been in an argument, things can escalate out of nowhere for nothing. So I think until because it's never really been a problem with him not being a team guy. So I think until there is reason to believe it's an issue, I think it's a nothing.
Ezekiel Elliott visited the Patriots last Saturday. Would you like to see him backing up Ramondre Stevenson? I mean, the Patriots do need that. They lost Damian Harris, so there is a need for a running back. I think the question is if you're Zeke, if you're Dalvin Cook, if you're Leonard Fournette right now, the market is not the same for you as a free agent running back, and you don't have any contract to fall back on. What is a number that you think teams, especially the Patriots, Bill Belichick, would feel comfortable giving a running back who, in a sense, I think you can make the argument that Zeke, by virtue of what the Cowboys did by choosing Pollard, is maybe over the hill?
I don't think that number is very high, and I think it's
$6 million. Over under that. Under 6.
I'd say probably under.
Okay.
At this point, if they're not signed, I don't think they're going to get over 6.
Yeah, I like that.
6 may be the ceiling, but I feel like if they're that motivated, if teams are going to pay that much, and I know it's a lot of money, but it's not a huge number in I feel like in sports contracts, but I feel like if they were willing to do that, they would have already signed at least 1 or 2 of these guys, especially Dalvin. But at a certain point, if you're Zeke and how much money you've made in your career, is going through training camp for that money worth it? I can see one of these guys waiting around and just getting through that, so they don't have to put their body through the wear and tear of training camp. I feel like they can pick up the playbook pretty quickly, a lot of these guys, and just kind of wait until and then. NFL contracts for veterans are fully guaranteed if you're on the roster week 1. So I can see a lot of teams kind of wait until week 2 to pick some of these guys up, so that way they're not fully guaranteed. I mean, it's
smart.
Just, you see it every year, and it is the business side of the sport. So I could see some of the teams waiting for those weeks to open up.
I just thought of this as well, since we're talking about Zeke. So the Cowboys are going with Tony Pollard over Zeke, and the Vikings are going with Alexander Mattison over Dalvin Cook. So which of those 2 running backs do you think has more success here in year 1 as RB1? That's a tough question.
I've
now
got
that I'm
more
thinking about
faith in the Vikings offense than I do in the Cowboys offense this year. Just play calling.
But the running back though, like as far as let's say that both of them have the incentive in their contract that they've got to get to 1,300 yards and double-digit touchdowns and play X amount of games. Which running back, if you had to put a prop bet on it, which guy are you more?
I think we've seen a little bit better play out of Pollard the last year or two, but I know he had an injury towards the end of the last year, I believe. But so I think Pollard is the slightly better back if I was having to rank him. But I could see, I have more faith in the Vikings offense, so I could see Madison having the better year, even if he's not necessarily the better player.
Yeah, Kyle Albritton just commented saying David Hayes versus Deuce Vaughn, and David Hayes would absolutely crush him. Absolutely false. Absolutely false. Even if we did an Oklahoma drill, I mean, what's he, 5'6"?
5'6", but he's probably just 175 pounds of solid muscle just running straight through.
He's 5'5", 176.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm 5'9 3/4", 5'10", and probably 165 pounds soaking wet. Yeah, this guy's going to put me on my back and then...
Rub it in, jerk.
well, Kyle Albritton is saying that I would crush an NFL player that is Deuce Vaughn, who was playing with Kansas State last year.
You know who could take on Deuce Vaughn? Miles could take on Deuce Vaughn.
Miles could take on Derrick Henry for all Miles would say. But yeah, definitely going to have to dive into those uniform topics this year. But Jonathan Taylor has requested a trade. Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, has said that he's not going to trade him. It's been this whole back and forth. I haven't heard much about it today. But I mean, what do you think's going? Like, is Irsay in the wrong?
No, I don't think he's in the wrong at all. I mean, I don't know what's gone on off the field, behind the scenes that we don't know about. I know Jonathan Taylor hasn't been particularly happy with the way Irsay has kind of defended the owner's stance on playing running backs. Like he's
surprise.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we agreed to the CBA. Y'all agreed to it. It's not our fault that y'all are unhappy now.
Yeah.
And I think that's perfectly fair of Irsay to say. And I feel like there's a lot of owners who feel the same way, but maybe not willing to speak out about it. But again, there could have been more going on behind the scenes. I think if the Colts are trying to get out of paying him, like people were talking about with the back injury, that's not right. But you hate to see when your best players is unhappy verbally and, out for everybody to see, because that just creates an issue.
Well, even worse than that, then, like yesterday, Zach Moss then breaks his arm. So he's out for 4 to 6 weeks right now, which it could be week 2 or week 3. But how are you as the Colts going to go in with either Jonathan Taylor's just not a part of the future for the Indianapolis Colts, and then all right, so who you bringing in? You're going to go sign a guy like Zeke or whatever for whatever amount, and then you just like, if you spend $6 to $8 million on a running back, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you're the Colts right here, because it's like you've got Jonathan Taylor
at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Like see if he's got that bounce back in him, because yes, it's been kind of a slow process, but not last year, but the year before. What was Jonathan Taylor last year in fantasy football? Like before the season started,
not even close.
Exactly. Like everyone was taking Jonathan Taylor first overall, and then it just didn't work out, and that obviously ticked off a lot of fantasy football owners. But I don't think it should take off the owner of the football team and Jim Irsay.
It's really interesting because Irsay seems like the kind of guy that's just going to be staunch in his ways, and he's not going to cave in to public pressure. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Maybe he ends up getting a little extension, like a 1-2 year deal, gets a little bit more money up front just to kind of make everybody happy. But if he says he's not going to trade him, it wouldn't surprise if he means it. Maybe he sits out a game or two and he eventually gets traded, or maybe he decides, hey, you know what, I'll play this year and not re-sign with y'all next year. But
then if he gets tagged, dreaded franchise tag. And what's even worse, though, for some positions, great. But for running back, it's like, yeah, you can get tagged this year. I mean, they can tag every player twice if they wanted to. But, you tag them and then you tag them again. And it's like you're basically, that's 6 years? If they pick up the 5th year option, then you're talking about possibly 7 years. And that's an entire career for a running back these days.
Yeah, I mean, and that's towards the back end of their career for a lot of these guys. So it's a very unfortunate situation for Taylor. You want, as a football fan, you want to see Taylor get back to being what he was 2 years ago. You want to see, with Steichen going into Indianapolis, kind of a reboot for that franchise. Like, this is kind of a rough way for him to be going into year one. So you do feel for a brand new head coach having to deal with all this right now.
Yep. It's going to be wild, man. We're definitely getting close here, and I can just feel it. It's always a lot of fun. You still got to do prep just because you want to know which direction you're going in and have the guests prepared and everything. But honestly, I could go without prep and when it's football season and just sit up here and talk sports for 2 hours. It's a little more difficult during baseball season, and it's like, I don't even, most of the people I have on with me like, dude, I don't like baseball that much. I don't know why you're asking me these questions. I don't know any answers.
I plead the fifth.
I plead the fifth. Yeah. So next Tuesday we'll dive into our Big 12 projections. That's going to be. We'll see. We're inching closer and closer to the SEC. So cannot wait to get to that point. That'll be like a real bona fide preview with the SEC.
You're gonna have to kick us off the air at that point.
Oh, at that point, there is no doubt about it. It's going to be a long time coming. But great afternoon. Thanks so much for giving me some of your time today, Tyler. We'll look forward to having you next Tuesday. Tomorrow I'll have Adam Goff, and we'll also have our Go to Goat finale tomorrow at 4:20. You've been riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. The Coach James Hale Show will be live at 7 a.m., and that'll run until 9 a.m. Then you've got the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey and Jay Henley from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and your Atlanta Braves are coming up next. Coverage starting right here in just a few short moments, and the first pitch tonight at 6:20. Let's go, Spencer Striders. Play ball.